Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We've got a big docket for you today. First, a thief bites off an 88-year-old woman's finger to get her ring, and the guy's still on the run. The arrest of Ashlee Buzzard on an unrelated charge amid ongoing searches for her missing daughter. More teachers misbehaving, and a student who has no respect for her teacher. A babysitter receives a life sentence for orchestrating some bad things with autistic children. Sober as a judge. You know how the saying goes? Well, not this one. Then we have this day in legal history, our quote of the day, and wait to hear about our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Let me also remind you, if you haven't done so already, go and subscribe to crimetalksearch.com for a background subscription service today. I'm telling you, there is somebody that you want to know something about. Somebody coming into your life, maybe somebody you work with, maybe somebody coming into your children's life. Go check them out and get that report. It's literally prepared and emailed to you while you wait. You're going to get a report that's going to have all types of information, phone numbers, email addresses, social media presence, criminal history, liens, judgments, married, divorced, sex offender, all those things you wanted to find out about somebody before they come into your life, or maybe you're deciding to get them out of your life. But go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to be happy that you did. Now, let me remind you, we got merch. Lawyer. There you go. Great t-shirt. How about this one? You know, the Constitution matters, does it not? Yes, it does. It does. And of course, the beloved keychain that everybody wants. This was the hottest thing at CrimeCon. I guarantee you, next year, CrimeCon is going to have their own little tag because why? Their little people came over to get ours. All right, it's coming. Mark my words. Post this. It's going to age well. All right. And so let's go ahead and get to the rest of the docket. But let me give a big shout out to the United States Marine Corps and all those Marines out there. Happy birthday. I got tons of messages from people I served with. Everybody wishing everybody a happy birthday. 250 years, 10 November, 1775, before we were even a country. That's right. They stood up 2 battalions of Marines, America's 911 force. God bless the Marine Corps. All right, let's go ahead and get to the docket. Open the record for Monday, November 10th, the Marine Corps birthday, 2025. In a shocking display of violence, an 88-year-old woman in Seattle endured a savage attack on October 13th of this year when a stranger demanded her diamond ring and resorted to extreme brutality to obtain it. Emma Cotton, a frail resident weighing just over 100 pounds, was left with life-threatening injuries, including the permanent loss of a finger after the assailant bit it off during the assault. The perpetrator fled the scene with both the severed finger and her stolen jewelry, evading capture for nearly a month. Now, the incident unfolded in broad daylight on the back porch of Cotton's home, where she was engaged in some routine cleaning tasks. According to the Seattle Police Department, the suspect approached from behind and immediately launched a ferocious assault, striking the 80-year-old repeatedly in the face and body. He then dragged the elderly victim into her garage, where the beating intensified, causing severe trauma to her head and extremities. Witness accounts from responders indicate that Cotton feared for her life during the ordeal, believing the attacker intended to kill her. The assault reached a grotesque peak when the man, frustrated by her inability to remove the ring, resorted to biting off her finger to claim his prize. Surveillance footage from the vicinity captured images of the suspect, described as a male, unknown age, which have been publicly released to aid his identification. Now, Cotton's sons, Marvin, Ricky, and Wes have publicly recounted the harrowing details to raise awareness and urge community assistance in apprehending the fugitive. And in interviews and local broadcasts, they describe the profound shock of discovering their mother in the hospital, her head swollen to an alarming size from the repeated blows. She felt someone breathing behind her, and the moment she turned, the punches began. Ricky recounted, emphasizing his mother's remarkable resilience in surviving the encounter, and Marvin added that the family's relief at her survival is tempered by the irreversible damage inflicted, including multiple fractures and a brain hemorrhage that necessitated 3 days in intensive care. The medical professionals were unable to reattach the severed finger as the suspect absconded with it, compounding the physical and emotional toll on the victim. Obviously admitted in a critical condition, Cotton has since been transferred to a rehabilitation facility for some ongoing recovery. And though she has refrained from public statements, her sons portray her as a fighter whose spirits defied the odds against an overpowering aggressor. Now, the Seattle Police Department has classified this as a violent robbery and is conducting a collaborative investigation with law enforcement agencies from the Buren, Tukwila, and the King County Sheriff's Office, and authorities are appealing for public tips and have provided a dedicated violent crime tip line of 206-233-5000 for anyone with information on the suspect's whereabouts or identity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this obviously underscores the vulnerability of elderly individuals to predatory crimes and the urgent need for heightened vigilance in residential areas. Now, as the search continues, Cotton's family remains steadfast in their call for justice, hoping that widespread dissemination of the suspect's image will lead to his swift arrest. We're going to try to help out because somewhere, someone knows something. And wouldn't it be great if a CrimeTalk viewer saw this and says, I know that guy. And somebody that's going to bite off the finger of an 80-year-old woman? Are you kidding me? That person does not deserve to walk among the rest of the civilized world. That is simply barbaric, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the docket, the arrest of Ashlee Buzzard on, some unrelated charges. We haven't got their charges yet for her missing daughter, Melody. So in a development that may exert additional pressure on a key figure in an unresolved missing child case, police in Santa Barbara County, California, have taken Ashlee Buzzard into custody on charges unrelated to the disappearance of her 9-year-old daughter, Melody Buzzard. The arrest was announced on November 7th, which coincides with Ashlee's documented refusal to assist investigators, potentially providing law enforcement with new avenues to elicit some more information, such as, monitoring communications from jail, those pesky recorded phone calls that I've mentioned so much about. Everybody talks on the phone, ladies and gentlemen. And these days, the police just go and listen. They download it like they're downloading music to their iPod or their phone. It's not like the old days where it was really difficult to listen to jail calls. It's so easy, and everybody talks on the phone. It's unbelievable. Anyway, as you may recall, because we've been bringing you this story for a while, but Melody was reported missing back on October 14th of this year after a school official noted her extended absence from school. Prior to this, surveillance footage captured the child and her mother together on October 7th at a car rental facility, marking one of the last confirmed sightings of the child. Now, in the 9-second clip, Ashlee, appearing with a blonde, wavy hair identified as a wig, engaged briefly with Melody, who is dressed in a gray hoodie and displays an altered appearance, including a wig that authorities believe was intended to obscure her identity. Investigators have determined that Ashlee changed wigs multiple times during their travels, a deliberate measure to evade detection, according to statements from the police. Now, further evidence of evasion emerged from the rental vehicle used by the pair. Its license plate was altered on or around October 8th, and another suspected tactic to avoid identification. Now, Melody's most recent verified appearance took place on October 9th in a surveillance video near a Colorado-Utah border. Despite these leads, the circumstances of her disappearance remain unclear, with limited recent information available. Her last confirmed family contact dates back a year, and most of the current photographs is at least 2 years old. Ashlee, who was the last individual known to be with Melody, has consistently declined to provide any statements or cooperate with the ongoing search efforts. While it's, not designated as a person of interest in the suspects in the child's vanishing, her arrest on a separate false imprisonment charge, alleging that she previously confined a victim against their will, obviously prompting some strong speculation that it could serve as a little bit of a leverage. Access to jail calls, interactions, including phone calls, might yield some insights into Melody's location on the events surrounding her absence, thereby advancing the investigation. And let's not forget about the jailhouse snitches, ladies and gentlemen. Those snitches, they're going to be out there saying, hey, the golden ticket to my release is information on a suspected homicide. They're going to be probing her for all types of information. Anyway, family members estranged from Melody for years due to Ashlee's actions have expressed profound distress. And Melody's paternal grandmother, Lori Miranda, recently appealed publicly for her granddaughter's safe return, urging Ashlee to disclose any relevant information. The father, Rubiel Meza, perished in a car accident back in 2016 when Melody was just an infant, leaving her maternal side as the primary family connection, which has since frayed. Now, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office continues an active search and solicits public assistance from all individuals with information on Melody's whereabouts. And yes, you can contact them at 805-681-4150. Obviously, challenges in cases involving non-cooperative guardians and the critical role that the community is going to play in helping resolve this child endangerment matter. Bad news. I mean, listen, I know it's not rocket science. I know it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you believe. It only matters what you can prove. DAs don't have a dead body. They can't prove that the child is gone, but you would think that maybe mom would be something to do with it. Maybe child isn't dead. Maybe child was sold for human trafficking type reasons. But those are two separate different things. And frankly, the police don't know, which means the DAs don't know, and which means they don't know how to prove it. Next in the docket, got a couple of teachers gone wild. Middle school teacher allegedly had sex with her underage student. I know, how surprising. How many times have I cautioned that it is wise to scrutinize the motives of those clamoring for proximity to, your children? Apparently not nearly enough, judging by this latest episode in the annals of misplaced trust, in a development that shocks precisely no one who's ever paid passing attention to such scandals. Jessica Bergman, a 34-year-old mathematics instructor and soccer coach at the Washington Middle School in Aurora, Illinois, finds herself in handcuffs, figuratively at least, for allegedly crossing lines that should have been etched in granite. Police swooped in following a neighbor's alert last month, noting the suspiciously regular visits from a now 17-year-old former pupil, as detailed in court filings reviewed by the press. Now, prosecutors paint a picture of evenings that veered from innocent study sessions into something far more compromising. That's right, the young man reportedly making frequent house calls to Bergman's residence, complete with overnight stays during which they claim the pair indulged in illicit encounters. Their acquaintance dates back to his middle school days when he kicked balls on her team and absorbed her lessons. Until sophomore year, when innocuous texts and calls allegedly morphed into a liaison of the forbidden variety. Now, Bergman surrendered to custody last Friday, slapped with charges of criminal sexual assault in a position of authority, alongside with 2 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse under the same umbrella. Now, the state attorney, Robert Berlin, said, dripping with the obligatory outrage, decried the profound abuse of trust and authority as extremely disturbing, vowing the judiciary's unyielding hammer. Educators bear the sacred duty to nurture and safeguard our youth. He intoned not to erode the foundation of personal gratification, shattering not just the statutes, but the faith of families, schools, and society as large. And though prosecutors pushed for pretrial detention, a judge said, no, we'll go lenient, freeing her on the proviso that she steer clear of the victim and stay away from anyone under the age of 18. Her encore court appearance looms, a footnote in what one hopes is a swift reckoning. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know. How many times have I warned you? Be careful of anyone that wants to be around your children, okay? Love my children, but I don't want to hang out with other people's children and be like, let's be pals, let's hang out together. That would be weird. And people would say, that's weird. Why are you doing that? But yet people get themselves, they ingratiate themselves in positions of authority and trust and say, you can trust them. They're a good guy. They're a teacher. Those are aggravating factors, not mitigating factors, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we'll give this teacher the presumption of innocence that she's entitled to. But when you basically confess and leave a contemporaneous confession called text messages, what can you do? Next, check out this body cam video of this fourth grade teacher sending disturbing text to an underage girl. Yeah, let's take a look at this here. Yep, sending text. Fourth grade teacher, ladies and gentlemen. One would have to wonder, wouldn't they? Maybe Scott kind of knows what he's talking about here. Yeah, I don't know about you. I think any normal guy, the last thing he'd want to hang out with is a bunch of fourth graders. Seriously? Ask yourselves, why? Who wants to be near my children? And what are their motives, ladies and gentlemen? They go where the children are. They go where the children are. Trust me on this, ladies and gentlemen. And next, let's take a look at this student that has no respect for their teacher. Yes, very heartwarming, isn't it? A charming little video emerges from the Anatoch High School in Nashville, capturing the tender moment when an 18-year-old prodigy by the name of Kayla Smith decides that her teacher's audacious act of confiscating her phone mid-class warrants a refreshing spritz of pepper spray right in the face. Poor Caleb Bates, the beleaguered educator, was promptly arrested. No, wait. That's her. She earned the cuffs for assault, as one does when the, basic civility proves too burdensome. And to add a little extra dash of poetic justice, this isn't Miss Bates' debut performance in the Grand Theater of Classroom Combat. Merely 2 months prior, another discerning scholar rewarded his vigilance against cheating with a solid punch in the jaw. Truly a testament to the modern educational ethos. Why adhere to the rules when one can simply redecorate the faculty's features? Alas, this is but a vignette in the symphony of escalating indignities that teachers now endure while daring to uphold the quaint notion of order. Smith, ever the trailblazer, has been duly expelled and now graces the criminal justice system with her presence. One can only imagine the profound dialogues this has ignited. Earnest pondering of the virtues of unchecked adolescence entitlements, perhaps, the luxurious vulnerabilities of those who shape young minds, and the quaint fantasy the classroom might once again resemble places of learning rather than gladiator arenas. How inspiring. Really. Listen, maybe I'm just turning into that old curmudgeon, but, school is for teaching. And I'm not talking about little kids that maybe get a little antsy, can't sit there very long at their desks. We're talking about junior high and high school students here. At that age, you need to behave. And if you can't behave, guess what? They used to do it in our school. They would boot you out, and everyone went to the special school. You don't want to go to the special school with all the other delinquents, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe one of these days. Next on the docket, probably one of the worst things we've heard about. Try to notice a trend of today's videos, today's stories, I guess. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This woman is a predator. All right. That's the only way to do it. The 31-year-old San Marcos woman has been condemned to 100 years to life in prison for systematically targeting and sexually abusing young children with special needs, including those with autism, who she lured under the guise of compassionate caregiver. Now, the San Diego District Attorney, Summer Stephan, underscores the depths of the depravity of the defendant's actions and the urgent imperative to shield the most defenseless members of society. As a poignant observation holds, a society is judged on how we protect our children. a standard that demands unyielding vigilance against such monstrous betrayals. So here's Brittany Lyon, the convicted predator. She admitted back in May to a litany of grave offenses encompassing multiple instances of lewd acts upon minors, forcible sexual misconduct, kidnapping, residential burglary, and assaults on several victims. Her crimes, meticulously planned and executed with chilling premeditation, preyed upon at least 4 preschools and an elementary-aged girl, 2 as young as 3 years old and 2 aged 7. Among them, children grappling with autism, one of whom was entirely nonverbal, rendered their silent suffering all the more harrowing. Prosecutors detailed how Lyon deliberately positioned herself as a reliable babysitter, advertising her services online with an emphasis on accommodation of children with disabilities to integrate herself into the trusting families. The calculated facade enabled her to orchestrate access for her accomplice, Samuel Cabrera, who was convicted back in 2019 and now faces 8 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Together, they inflicted unimaginable torment. Lyon transported the drugged and defenseless children to Cabrera's residence or facilitated his entry during her caregiving shifts, either in her home or the victim's own. The pair's depravity extended to recording the assaults, amassing hundreds of explicit videos that captured the raw brutality of their violations, evidence seized from digital storage devices following a high-speed pursuit. Now, this nightmare unraveled back in 2016 when a 7-year-old survivor, summoning unimaginable courage, confided in her mother about her dread of being left alone with Lyon. This revelation ignited a comprehensive investigation, which unearthed not only the abuse footage, but also a trove of covert recordings Lyon had surreptitiously captured in public spaces such as dressing rooms, restrooms, and locker facilities across North County. Now, police have appealed to the community for assistance in identifying any additional survivors from these illicit surveillance efforts. Said the district attorney characterized the sentence as a necessary closure to a despicable chapter that has destroyed innocents and devastated families, emphasizing Lyon's ruthless exploitation of her victims' impairments. The defendant showed no mercy. The DA stated, ruthlessly recruiting autistic children under false pretenses only to subject them to the most atrocious violations imaginable. Yet, even as justice appears served, a troubling shadow lingers under California's elderly parole provisions, which could permit Lyons to seek early release after just 28 years at the age of 50. This potential leniency has ignited some bipartisan outrage and some legislative action. Apparently, some legislators are trying to get together in California and seek to bar violent sex offenders from such exemptions, ensuring lifelong incarceration for crimes of this magnitude. Although it really doesn't matter as it relates to this particular case because you can't do ex post facto and make it retroactive. So it would be going forward, but we'll see what they can do. Anyway, horrific story. Remember, why do you want to be near my children? What are your motives? Next on the docket. Oh, the irony. Have you ever heard of the saying, sober as a judge? Well, apparently this judge didn't hear that. What, we had one last week, a judge resigned because she was urinating in public? Listen to this. In a twist that writes itself, an Iowa judge decided the best way to interpret traffic laws was to treat them like optional suggestions, specifically by barreling the wrong direction down the highway until she auditioned for a nap in the median strip. Police, ever the buzzkills, weren't amused. So meet Adria Kester, Kester, or as we should say, Judge. Anyway, the 55-year-old beacon of the Hawkeye State's 2nd Judicial District is now staring down a charge of driving under the influence. Her inaugural tango with the offense per court documents that must make for awkward bedtime reading. It all unfolded like a bad episode on Cops around 8 p.m. on November 4th, when alarmed drivers dialed 911 upon spotting Kester's gleaming 2026 GMC Canyon Denali treating the westbound lanes of U.S. Highway 30 near Boone, a leisurely 45 miles northwest of Des Moines, as her personal eastbound expressway. Slow and steady. More like sluggish and sloppy. Now, eyewitnesses, bless their proactive souls, described watching Kessler slumped forward like she just binge-watched a Law & Order rerun, veering into the median with all the grace of a shopping cart in a windstorm. One heroic bystander even played MacGyver, wrestling with a locked driver's door before resorting to a rear window acrobatics routine to halt the rolling disaster. Because apparently that's what it takes when the justice system's finest is auditioning for unconsciousness behind the wheel. Well, don't worry. The Boone County deputies arrived to find Kester in the driver's throne, out cold as a winter's night. Tucked nearby, a mysterious cup brimming with a suspiciously boozy bouquet. Upon revival, she sported the classic ensemble, crimson rimmed pepper, and a verbal delivery that could curdle milk. Yanking her from the cab revealed she couldn't navigate her own 2 feet, let alone a sobriety shuffle. Deputies wisely opted out of the roadside ballet, deeming it a little too dangerous to her health. Off to the ER she went for some TLC and a mandatory blood draw. So we'll follow this one. Obviously, the good judge is, entitled to the presumption of innocence. Maybe it was alcohol, maybe it was drugs, or a combination of both that caused her to, abandon her judicial temperament. Let's say it that way. Yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen, her judicial temperament. Hey, a couple of news items that didn't quite make all the headlines, but hey, they're worth noting. In the dim quiet of their Springfield home, Joseph Parker stood over his sleeping wife, Samantha. A .38 revolver trembling in his grip. The weight of lost jobs and looming foreclosures has fractured him. One shot pierced the temple's fragile curve, and silence swallowed her final breath. Believing that she had passed away, he carved her form to fit the garage freezer's icy maw, her limbs yielding little brittle wood after 2 frozen days. Guilt clawed at him, then a hallucination of life in her still gaze. That's right, he dialed 911, voice steady as winter frost. I shot her, he confessed. Thought she'd passed, but she's blinking. Once for yes, twice for no. She's frozen solid, a hole in her head, but alive. Help her, I still love her. The operator pressed for reasons. He waved them off. Long story, just save her. Anyway, the troopers arrived to the little horror scene there. Samantha dismembered and lifeless in the chill. Joseph fled to Kentucky. Pursuit ending in a self-inflicted echo of that first shot. And then a little case down in Georgia. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation has arrested and charged Irving Eugene Griffin, age 78, of Middleville, Georgia, with child molestation. That's right, 78. The Milledgeville Police Department requested that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation conduct an investigation into the Griffin Group Home Daycare on November 5th. Griffin and his wife run an in-home daycare in Milledgeville, and Griffin was arrested at his home in Milledgeville, Georgia, and is currently booked into Baldwin County Jail. How about this one? Another couple charged with child abuse. 2 arrests were made from the West Virginia State Police Logan Detachment following the conclusion of a child abuse investigation. Police were notified by Child Protective Services after an 11-month reportedly suffered from a broken leg and an unsupervised visit with Brandon Jones and Raven Damron. Anyway, CPS told the troopers that the child was in temporary custody with other people who took the child to get medical treatment once they received the child back from the visit. Jones allegedly stomped on the child's leg, and Damron allegedly failed to get the child medical treatment. Anyway, the police say warrants were obtained after being notified by CPS, and Jones and Damron were taken into custody. Jones is charged with child abuse causing serious bodily injury and child neglect causing injury. Damron is charged with child neglect causing injury. This day in legal history, probably the only thing that really matters today. That's right, 10 November 1775, the Continental Congress passed a resolution authorizing the formation of 2 battalions of Marines for naval service, officially established in the United States Marine Corps and setting early precedents for federal military organization under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. And on this date in 1940, the United States Supreme Court in Skinner v. Oklahoma ruled that forced sterilization of criminals violates equal protection under the 14th Amendment, limiting state eugenics laws and reinforcing substantive due process rights. Legal quote of the day. The best math you can learn is how to calculate the future cost of current decisions. Think about that. Now, I don't know who originally came up with that, but I say it all the time. All right? I swear, I want to start a hotline. People can call me, pay a little retainer, saying, I'm going to do something. Should I do it? And my general answer would be is, imagine yourself. If a police officer was standing right next to you and you were going to do what you were going to do, would you do it? If you'd say no, because the police officer's right there, I don't want to get in trouble, you probably shouldn't do it. Think about that. Calculate the future cost of current decisions. Have people go rob a store. Maybe they get 10, 20 bucks. Swear to God. Then they look at 10 to 32 years in prison. Not exactly a good return on your investment, ladies and gentlemen. Calculate the future costs of current decisions. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. What a flapjack of family bliss. Son Pancake serves up a beating to dear old dad. That's right. Can't make this stuff up. In a heartwarming tale of intergenerational bonding that's sure to inspire Hallmark cards, one Eric Thomas Pancake, yes, that's his actual surname because why not add any irony to injury, decided Tuesday night that was perfect time for a spot for a fisticuffs with his 72-year-old father. Police, ever the buzzkills, swooped in and slapped a 38-year-old with a felony charge of what they delicately termed battery on someone well past the age of collecting Social Security in peace. Picture this domestic idyllic unfolding in the cozy Palm City abode shared by the senior Pancake duo, the victim and his equally spry 66-year-old better half. Our hero, who apparently treats the family Mars like his personal crash pad, allegedly unleashed a barrage of blows to his dad's face and torso amid what sources charitably described as a disagreement. Because nothing says family dinner like turning your parents' feature into an abstract art exhibit of contusions and puffiness. By the time that the boys in blues crashed the pity party, Grandpa Pancake was sporting what the report poetically calls severe bruising and swelling around his peepers and mug. All the hallmarks of love tap that clearly got carried away. As for the prodigal slugger, officials noted that he was sloshing with the telltale signs of liquid courage and radiating that special don't mess with me vibe, opting for a curt, I invoke my Fifth Amendment rights when asked for his side of the symphony. Yet, in a plot twist worthy of a bad cop procedural, he promptly spun around, wrists at the ready as if auditioning for the role of cooperative perp. Now facing the full weight of the Florida justice system for roughing up the 65-year-old crowd, a charge that sounds like it should come with a side of kids these days lectures. That's right, Pancake Sr., the younger one, cooled his heels in the Martin County lockup before waltzing out Wednesday afternoon, courtesy of a measly $5,000 bond. One can only hope that the next family reunion involves, well, board games instead of bare knuckles, or at least maybe some ice packs. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. That's our dumb criminal. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.